A warm welcome from the company FDIC. Dear young chefs, dear chefs from all over around the world, thank you very much for your time today. Is everything okay? I will give you a demonstration today about how to keep your knives sharp, as sharp knives are essential for your daily work all over the time. Wo bin ich denn jetzt? I will give you a short presentation about the company. I will give you a short presentation and tell you about the quality of good chef's knives. I will show and also demonstrate you how to sharpen your knives. And at the end of the presentation, I also want you to give you an advice how to store, how to care, and how to transport your knives that you need for your daily work. Back. Thank you very much for the World Association that we have the time for the demonstration today, that we got the time for the demonstration today. Wo bin ich denn? Why are sharp knives so important, ladies and gentlemen? Blunt knives are dangerous. Sorry. Blunt knives are dangerous as you have to press when you cut your food. Sharp knives are safe as you can really cut and really slice down the food. Sharp knives offer a much better guidance than any blunt knife. You have to press and really work with the food, and later on the food does not look very nice. And sharp knives offer a better performance over the whole lifetime, as a good knife you can work with nearly your lifetime. A little bit about the company FDIC. FDIC is a company already existing more than 240 years. The company was founded in 1778 and is still family owned in 2018. I show you also two pictures that you can see how old this company is and how long we exist. FDIC already presented its products during the World Exposition in 1893 in Chicago. That's more than 100 years ago. And FDIC, the presentation today, as well as that we have a presentation here during the World Congress next to the competition area. The company today is a company with 240 employees. A little bit data, you can read that by your own. I think what is more interesting for you, DIC is working all over the world in more than 84 countries. And now coming to the quality factors of good, perfect chef's knives. What are the quality factors? A high quality stainless steel. You can see there a very good composition of the steel, the hardness of the blade, a constant hardness through the whole blade, the geometry of a cutting edge, and as well as in combination with a functional handle. That's a knife you really can fatigue-free working the whole day, as you have a perfect cutting edge in combination with a perfect functional handle. Then, for example, the knife steel, the composition of a knife steel, of a very good and perfect knife steel. And which different knives do we offer today? We have on the one side, we have a fully forged knife forged from one piece of steel, which you need 45 production steps until you have a ready produced knife. And what is also very important, the seamless connection between the plastic handle and the stainless steel blade. So no bacteria can inside the handle, and nothing, no bacteria can come outside when you prepare the food for your customers. That's the same when we talk about a stamped light-weighted blade knife. That is a seamless and very important, a seamless connection between the plastic material and the blade. Absolutely, fully hygienic. Knives are also available in a color-coded system that you, of course, know that, for example, in some areas of the world, you need to have blue knives for the fish preparation, yellow knives for the poultry preparation, or red knives for the meat preparation. There are our different, we call that knife series, different knife designs, designs from collector's knives to normal production knives. You can see we have all these knives, or all these samples of these knife series here in the Expo area. Please come later on to our stand. And now let's go to the sharpening steels. What is a sharpening steel? A traditional sharpening steel you are sharpening your knives with. And a sharpening steel has, oh, that's where I want to be. A sharpening steel is a sharpening steel when it has absolutely parallel cuts on the sharpening steel blade that you can really work against the sharpening, against the cuts, which make the knife later on sharp. Sharpening steels exist in a round version, in an oval version, in a flat version, a special flat version, or also in a square version. The wider the sharpening steel blade is, the more surface you have to resharpen your knife. As well as when you have a square solution, a square sharpening steel blade, then you have the possibility to combine two sides, so two steels in one sharpening steel blade, meaning you have two sides fine and two sides, for example, polish. I show you the details later. And there exist different sharpening steel cuts, starting from a very rough cut with only a few cuts on the sharpening steel blade, to diamond coating, which is the file, which really can resharpen, where you can manually resharpen your knives. You have a standard cut, we call it also a regular cut, which makes normally every knife sharp. And then we are coming to specialists, fine cut sharpening steels, when you really need a very, very fine cutting edge, or a polished sharpening steel, which will be used only by butchers and not by chefs. What happens when you are using a traditional sharpening steel? When you use a traditional sharpening steel on a cutting board, and when your knife, and when you use your new knife, then it looks like that. When you cut a little bit on a cutting board, only the cutting edge will be bent. Then you can use a simple polished, in principle, a simple polished sharpening steel to straighten the cutting edge. You do not have to remove anything, you only straighten the cutting edge. When you further work with your knife and you reduce your cutting edge on the cutting board, then you need a little bit a rougher sharpening steel. Then you could use a fine cut sharpening steel. And on, finally, you are somewhere where you really need a rough, a regular cut sharpening steel to get a cutting edge again. And then, There will come a time you won't be able to create a cutting edge with a sharpening steel, as then your knife is absolutely blunt, and then the knife has to be reshaped. The blade has to be reshaped and be regrinded on a machine. You can maybe hear when I demonstrate a regular cut sharpening steel. I don't know if this happened, if this will do. This is rough. Can you hear that? That's a regular cut sharpening steel. Makes the knife sharp. And now a fine cut. But better maybe is the demonstration with the polished version. You do not hear anything. So this only makes the new knife when the cutting edge under the microscope, my finger, is the cutting edge. When the new knife, when you feel the new knife is blunt, simply the cutting edge is a little bit bent. And this can be straightened by the with a polished sharpening steel. But please, of course, this is theory. In reality, you won't use a polished sharpening steel. But I want you to understand what happens when you work with a sharpening steel. You will use your normal sharpening steel you will have and do the sharpening very easy by using about 15 degrees on each side, and then I demonstrate that normally do table tennis playing. Turn only your wrist. Do not play tennis with the arm. And then turn down very easily. Then you can resharpen your knives. That's how to do it. An angle with 15 to 20 degrees. And then starting from the handle side against the cuts on the sharpening steel. This is one possibility of resharpening a knife, resharpening with the traditional sharpening steels. There are of course also other possibilities available. Traditional sharpening steels exist in many versions. You can see a variety here also on our stand when you will come to the Expo over next to the competition area, but I also want to show you other alternative sharpening possibilities. If you are not trained, if you feel not comfortable when you use sharpening steel, this may happen. Then there exist possibilities where you can that are very easy to use. You take your knife onto the sharpening rods and simply go through the slot, and that's it, like that. And then you also get a sharp knife back. Sharp knife, that's like this. Very easy to create a perfect sharp knife with a so-called rapid steel. Some people also say click-clack. There exist more possibilities. On the one side here, the information how to use the easy sharpening solution. Simply go through the slot 3-4 times, and that's it. And there exists, for example, also a possibility with a sharpening stone. There exist many different sharpening stones in the market and in the shops where you can buy it. This is, for example, a sharpening stone. When you want to sharpen your knives with a sharpening stone, then you need a kind of support and time, as sharpening on a sharpening stone, you will need time. The support gives you the right angle, and you need to put this stone into water, and then you need time to do it like that over the whole cutting edge. This could take you an hour or more. Therefore, think about if maybe a sharpening steel is an easier solution for you than the sharpening stone. That's the function, how to use the sharpening stone. You have also always an angle 15 degrees on both sides, that a perfect cutting edge is created with 30 degrees on both when we count the complete angle together. And this is what is now coming, is the solution with the machine. When you have the knife, a sharpening steel, the easiest way for you is to have a machine to regrind, to reshapen the blade when you do not get any sharp result with a sharpening steel or any other sharpening solution. Then you can use a machine, you do the real regrinding, the real reshaping, and you have a real rough cutting edge. But this can be refined by so-called honing, and in principle, of course, then by polishing. And then we are back again at the theoretical demonstration and explanation what happens when you use a sharpening steel. We have a rough cut sharpening steel, we have a fine cut steel, which is honing, or we have a polished sharpening steel that can polish the cutting edge. Would somebody be interested in to come on the stage and feel sharpness on a knife or not? As I would like you to understand, when a knife is sharp, then the knife stands on the hair. When the knife is blunt, then simply the knife goes down without cutting one hair. And I can use only the polished, it's a new knife. I did make it blunt in principle I did do 2-3 cuts on a cutting board, made the knife blunt, and now I make it sharp with a polished sharpening steel. So I straighten the cutting edge again. And now it stands again. So I do not cut my hair, as I have too less. Polishing, and then you have solutions that can be used in hotels and restaurants where you maybe work in the future. Well, are there any more questions from your side regarding sharpening? So I know it's fast. I got here a little bit more than 30 minutes. When you have any more detailed questions, please ask me or my colleague on our stand. Then we have more time to discuss this. When it comes to care, storage, and transportation, I want to give you a few, let's say, advices. Use your knives only for cutting. Very often, knives will be used for everything, but not for cutting, and then they will be damaged. Use only wooden or plastic cutting boards. When you use glass cutting boards, you destroy your cutting edge. The knife has really you need to regrind your knife on a professional regrinding machine. Clean them only by hand. Don't put them in a dishwashing machine. The pressure and the heat in a dishwasher destroys the cutting edge, not the knife. That's something everybody is thinking about. But we are only talking about the cutting edge, my finger, that you would see under a microscope as cutting edge. This will be destroyed. And of course, depending on the handle material, the handle would be also be destroyed in a dishwasher. Store them best in a knife block or on a magnetic rack, and use also edge guards or finger guards. You can use it as a knife protection, of course also as a finger protection, depending on how sure are you when you go somewhere in. So these are solutions for or advices about the care, storage, a magnetic knife block, the edge guard or a magnetic rack, and finally transportation. Best use a roll bag. The picture here shows a culinary bag which offers a little bit more space. This is depending how many knives you have from time to time to be taken wherever you work as a chef. Now, thank you very much for the time and your interest in the demo. If you want to see some, here, what I forgot, I've also brought a machine with me, and this is finally what I wanted to show you. This is for an electric machine, and it's very easy to use, and this is also something what I want you to understand. You can use this wherever you work. You simply take your knife onto so-called diamond-coated regrinding wheels, 3-4 times, like that, and then on so-called honing wheels. So we refine the cutting edge, as when we regrind the knife, then it's a little bit rough. Makes sense when you want to simply to cut tomatoes. Then you go through the skin very easily. But whenever you want to cut, for example, meat, you need to have a more finer cutting edge, as you want to really have really go through the meat with a fine slice, and then you need to refine the knife blade here on these so-called honing wheels. Or you use a fine cut steel. That's also a traditional way of doing it. And then always is the result a perfect sharp knife. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you.